What if the key to peace was a marriage no one wanted? In the heart of the Old West, one fearless warrior hides a secret that could rewrite both their destinies. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The scorching summer sun beat down on the small Texas settlement of Sweetwater Creek. Sarah Montgomery wiped the sweat from her brow as she hung laundry in the yard of her family's modest homestead. At 20 years old, with golden hair and determined blue eyes, she had already endured more hardship than most twice her age. The drought of 1875 had devastated their crops, and her father's recent injury left the family struggling to survive. "Sarah, come inside," her mother called from the doorway, her voice tight with worry. "Riders approaching." Sarah shielded her eyes and spotted a cloud of dust on the horizon. Her stomach knotted. Raiders had been terrorizing settlements throughout the territory. "Pa, riders coming," she announced, helping her father to his feet. John Montgomery's face was lined with pain from his broken leg that hadn't healed properly. "Get the rifle," he muttered. As the riders drew closer, Sarah recognized the blue uniforms of U.S. cavalry soldiers, led by Captain Miller, a stern man who rarely brought good news. "Montgomery," the captain nodded curtly as he dismounted. "We've come with a proposition." Sarah's father invited the men inside, where they gathered around the worn wooden table. "The Comanche raids have intensified," Miller explained. "Fort Richardson can't spare enough men to protect all the settlements." "What's that got to do with us?" John asked suspiciously. Captain Miller cleared his throat. "Chief Gray Wolf has offered a peace treaty. He's willing to cease attacks on white settlements in exchange for supplies and respect for their hunting grounds." "That's welcome news," Sarah's mother said cautiously. "There's more," Miller continued, his eyes flickering toward Sarah. "As a gesture of good faith, he requests a bride from among the settlers, a marriage alliance to strengthen the treaty." A heavy silence fell over the room. Sarah felt her blood turn cold as her father's face reddened with anger. "You're asking us to sell our daughter to savages?" he exploded. "I'm asking you to consider what's best for the entire territory," Miller replied firmly. "The chief's son, Black Eagle, is his chosen successor. He's respected among his people and known to be more reasonable than most. The marriage would protect not just your family, but every settlement in the region." Sarah's mother gasped. "This is barbaric. You can't expect us to—" "The government will compensate you generously," Miller interrupted. "Enough to pay off your debts and hire help for the farm. Medical treatment for your leg, Montgomery." Sarah watched her parents' faces, seeing the conflict in their eyes. The farm was failing. Her father might never walk properly again. Her two younger brothers needed food and education. "I'll do it," Sarah said suddenly, her voice stronger than she felt. "Sarah, no," her mother cried. "We have no choice, Ma," Sarah replied softly. "Winter's coming. We won't survive another season like the last." Captain Miller nodded approvingly. "The ceremony will take place in 3 days at the neutral trading post. Chief Gray Wolf has agreed that if the marriage fails, the girl may return after 1 year without breaking the treaty." After the soldiers departed, Sarah sat alone on the porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. Her mother joined her, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. "I should never have allowed this," she whispered. Sarah took her mother's hand. "Tell me about the Comanche, Ma. What should I expect?" Her mother sighed deeply. "They're fierce warriors, proud people. Women work hard but are respected. I've heard Black Eagle is the most fearless warrior among them. They say he's never been defeated in battle." "Is he cruel?" Sarah asked, her voice barely audible. "I don't know, child. But remember who you are. You're a Montgomery. You have strength in your blood." The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparations and tearful goodbyes. Sarah packed her few possessions, including her mother's Bible and a small mirror that had belonged to her grandmother. On the morning of the 3rd day, she dressed in her best blue dress, her hands trembling as she braided her hair. "Remember," her father said as he embraced her, 1 year. "If he mistreats you in any way, you come home to us." The journey to the trading post took several hours. Sarah rode in silence, her thoughts racing between fear and determination. When they arrived, a group of Comanche warriors awaited them, their faces impassive beneath eagle feathers and war paint. At their center stood a tall figure, Black Eagle. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. Unlike the others, his face bore no paint, revealing sharp features and penetrating dark eyes that seemed to look straight through her. A single eagle feather adorned his long black hair, and a necklace of bear claws hung around his neck. Scars crisscrossed his copper skin, testament to countless battles. As Captain Miller helped her down from the wagon, Sarah forced herself to stand tall, though her legs threatened to give way beneath her. She was now the key to peace in the territory, a human treaty sealed in marriage to the most feared Comanche warrior in Texas. The ceremony was brief and foreign. Sarah stood bewildered as an elderly medicine man chanted in a language she couldn't understand, waving sage smoke around her and Black Eagle. No vows were exchanged, only symbolic gestures, a blanket draped over both their shoulders, a shared drink from a decorated clay cup. Throughout it all, Black Eagle remained stoic, his expression unreadable. When it was over, Captain Miller approached her. "Remember, Miss Montgomery, you're serving your country as surely as any soldier. The treaty could save hundreds of lives." Sarah nodded numbly, unable to speak as she watched her parents climb into their wagon. Her mother's face was streaked with tears, her father's jaw clenched tight with suppressed emotion. "1 year," her father reminded her, his voice breaking. "We'll be waiting." As the wagon disappeared into the distance, Sarah felt utterly alone. Black Eagle approached, motioning toward a painted pony. "You ride," he said, his English halting but clear. Sarah was surprised. "You speak English?" "Some words. Come." The Comanche camp was a half-day's journey. Sarah rode in silence, surrounded by warriors who occasionally glanced at her with curiosity or suspicion. Black Eagle led the procession, his back straight, never turning to check on her. By late afternoon, they crested a hill overlooking a valley where dozens of teepees formed a large circle near a winding river. Children played, women worked at cooking fires, and horses grazed nearby. It was larger and more organized than Sarah had expected. As they entered the camp, people gathered to stare at the white woman. Some faces showed hostility, others mere curiosity. An elderly woman approached, her face deeply lined but her eyes sharp. "My mother," Black Eagle explained, dismounting. "She teach you Comanche ways." The old woman, Morning Star, took Sarah to a large teepee at the center of the camp. Inside, buffalo robes covered the ground, and various possessions hung from the lodge poles. With gestures and broken English, she indicated a space where Sarah could place her few belongings. "You sleep here." Morning Star pointed to a bed of furs. "Black Eagle there." She pointed to another sleeping area across the fire pit. Sarah's relief must have shown on her face, for the old woman gave a knowing nod. "My son, honorable warrior, not take unwilling woman." That night, a feast was held to celebrate the marriage. Sarah sat beside Black Eagle as various tribal members approached with gifts. Beautifully tanned hides, beaded moccasins, a bone comb. She smiled and nodded her thanks, though everything felt surreal. Black Eagle barely spoke, eating silently while tribal elders discussed matters in their language. Occasionally, he would translate something, but his words were few. Later, in the privacy of their teepee, Morning Star helped Sarah prepare for bed, showing her how to wash with water from a clay pot and where to change into her night clothes. When Black Eagle entered, Sarah tensed, but he merely nodded to her before settling on his own sleeping area. He spoke briefly to his mother, who then turned to Sarah. "He say you safe here. No one harm Black Eagle's wife." After Morning Star left, Sarah lay awake in the strange darkness, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the camp. Distant singing, dogs barking, the wind against the teepee cover. Across the fire's dying embers, she could make out Black Eagle's silhouette as he sat cross-legged, seemingly lost in thought. "Why did you agree to this marriage?" she finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper. For a long moment, she thought he hadn't heard her or wouldn't answer. Then his deep voice came through the darkness. "My people suffer. Too much fighting, too many die, children hungry, women weep." He paused. "White man's world coming. Cannot stop like river. Must find way to live. But why me specifically?" Black Eagle was silent again before responding. "Captain say Montgomery daughter strong, smart, good farmer. Can teach our women white man's growing ways." Sarah considered this. "So I'm here to teach farming and be bridge between worlds." In the dim light, she saw him gesture toward the space between them. "Peace needs strong hands to hold it." The following days were a blur of new experiences as Sarah began to learn the rhythms of Comanche life. Morning Star proved to be a patient teacher, showing her how to prepare food, tan hides, and perform the daily tasks expected of women. Sarah's hands blistered from unfamiliar work, but she refused to complain. The other women kept their distance at first, watching her with suspicious eyes. A few, especially younger ones, made derisive comments she couldn't understand, but could certainly interpret from their tones and laughter. One woman, Singing Bird, was particularly hostile, speaking sharply whenever Sarah came near. When Sarah asked Morning Star about her, the old woman sighed. Singing Bird wanted Black Eagle for husband. Many moons she tried to catch his eye, now jealous of White Woman. But I didn't choose this either, Sarah protested. Morning Star patted her hand. She learned, you strong, show good heart. A week into her new life, Sarah was gathering firewood when she heard a child scream. Running toward the sound, she found a small boy who had fallen into a pit and appeared to have broken his leg. Without hesitation, she climbed down, carefully lifted him, and carried him back to camp. The boy's mother rushed forward, initially pulling her son away from Sarah. But when she saw how Sarah had fashioned a temporary splint from branches and strips of her petticoat, her expression changed. Black Eagle, returning from a hunting party, witnessed the commotion. That evening, as they sat near their fire, he spoke more words than he had since their first night. You help Yellow Fox today, good medicine for broken leg. My brother broke his leg last year, Sarah explained. I helped care for him. Black Eagle nodded slowly. My people see now. White Woman has good heart. For the first time, Sarah saw something soften in his expression. It wasn't a smile, not quite, but the permanent hardness in his eyes eased momentarily. Tomorrow, he said, I show you our hunting grounds. You see Comanche world. Sarah was surprised by the invitation. I thought women didn't join hunting parties. Not hunt. Just see. Understand my people's ways. He hesitated. If you want. The unexpected consideration in his voice caught her off guard. Sarah found herself nodding. I'd like that. Dawn broke in brilliant streaks of pink and gold across the eastern sky as Sarah emerged from the teepee. Black Eagle was already waiting, holding the reins of two horses, her painted pony and his muscular black stallion. He wore only buckskin leggings and moccasins, his chest bare except for the bear claw necklace. Sarah had grown somewhat accustomed to the Comanche's different standards of dress, but still felt a blush creep into her cheeks. We go now, he said simply, helping her mount before swinging effortlessly onto his own horse. They rode west, away from the camp, following the river's meandering path. The morning air was cool against Sarah's face, carrying the scent of sage and wildflowers. As they traveled, Black Eagle began to point out features of the landscape, naming plants and explaining their uses in a mixture of English and Comanche words. This plant, he said, stopping to indicate a low-growing herb with tiny purple flowers. Good medicine for fever. My mother teach you. Sarah was surprised by his attentiveness. In the camp, he rarely acknowledged her presence, occupied with the duties of a war chief and future tribal leader. Your English is better than you first let on, she observed. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. At mission school, 3 winters, before I run away. You ran away? Black Eagle's expression darkened. They beat children who speak Comanche. Cut hair. Say our ways evil. He shook his head. Learned white man's words. Then left. They continued riding until they reached a high bluff, overlooking a vast expanse of rolling prairie. Black Eagle dismounted and tied the horses to a scrubby tree. Sarah followed, taking in the breathtaking view. Comanche land, he said proudly, gesturing to the horizon. Once, from great mountains to big river, all Comanche. Now, his voice trailed off, his eyes reflecting a deep sorrow. It's beautiful, Sarah said sincerely. Sit, he invited, lowering himself to a flat rock. I tell you story of my people. For the next hour, Black Eagle spoke more than he had in all the previous days combined. He told her of the Comanche's migration from the north, their mastery of horsemanship, their battles with other tribes and later with white settlers. He spoke of buffalo hunts and vision quests, of tribal councils and sacred ceremonies. Sarah listened, fascinated by this glimpse into a world so different from her own. She began to see the land through his eyes, not as property to be claimed and fenced, but as a living entity that sustained his people through a complex relationship of respect and reciprocity. "Why are you telling me all this?" she finally asked. Black Eagle was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. "For peace to last, you must know my people. I must know yours." He turned to face her. "You teach me farming ways?" The request surprised her. "You want to learn farming?" He nodded. "Game grows scarce. Buffalo nearly gone. Old ways." He made a gesture like something slipping through his fingers. "My people must find new path or die." For the first time, Sarah understood the impossible position he occupied, trying to preserve his people's dignity and traditions while adapting to an inexorable tide of change. In that moment, she saw not the fearsome warrior, but a leader carrying an immense burden. "I'll teach you," she promised. "We can start a small garden near the camp." As they prepared to return, Black Eagle pointed to a distant plume of dust. "Buffalo hunters," he said, his voice tight with controlled anger. "Kill for hides, leave meat to rot. Spirits weep at such waste." Sarah had heard of such practices but never considered their impact on the native peoples who depended on buffalo for survival. She felt ashamed of her people's disregard. "Not all white settlers approve of that," she said quietly. "You different?" he acknowledged. "Why, I chose you when captains show pictures of settlement women. You chose me?" This revelation startled her. "I thought it was arranged by the captain." Black Eagle shook his head. "I see strength in your eyes, like mountain lion, fierce but calm." He mounted his horse. "Come, storm coming." They rode back faster as dark clouds gathered on the horizon. The first heavy raindrops began to fall as they reached the outskirts of the camp. By the time they dismounted at their teepee, the rain was pouring down in sheets, turning the ground to mud. Inside, Morning Star had kept the fire burning and prepared a hot meal of stew. She looked between them with knowing eyes, but said nothing as they dried themselves and ate. That night, as thunder rolled across the prairie, Sarah lay awake listening to the rain beating against the teepee. The day's revelations turned in her mind. Black Eagle had chosen her. He was planning for his people's future, even if it meant embracing some of the white man's ways. "You awake?" His voice came unexpectedly from across the fire. "Yes," she answered softly. "Rain good sign, brings new life." There was a pause. "Like you bring to our camp." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted outside, shouts and the sound of horses approaching. Black Eagle was instantly on his feet, grabbing his knife and moving to the teepee entrance. "Stay here," he commanded, then disappeared into the stormy night. Sarah waited anxiously, straining to hear over the rain and thunder. After what seemed an eternity, Black Eagle returned, water streaming from his hair and shoulders. His expression was grim. "Riders attack small hunting party, 2 warriors wounded. One is Yellow Fox's father." "The boy with the broken leg?" Sarah asked, already reaching for her shawl. "Let me help. I know some about treating wounds." Black Eagle studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Come." In the medicine man's teepee, 2 men lay on buffalo robes, their bodies bloodied. The older healer was chanting over one man while pressing herbs to his wound. The second warrior, younger and more severely injured, lay unattended, a deep gash across his chest still bleeding freely. Without hesitation, Sarah knelt beside him, tearing strips from her petticoat to make bandages. "I need hot water and clean cloths," she instructed, forgetting in the urgency of the moment that she was a stranger here with no authority. To her surprise, the women hurried to comply. Black Eagle spoke rapidly to the medicine man, who nodded grudgingly, allowing Sarah to continue. Working quickly, she cleaned the wound, applied pressure to stop the bleeding, and then carefully stitched the deepest part using a bone needle and sinew thread provided by the medicine man. Throughout the procedure, she spoke softly to the injured warrior, who watched her with a mixture of pain and wonder in his eyes. By dawn, both men were resting more comfortably. Sarah, exhausted but satisfied, emerged from the teepee to find the rain had stopped, and a brilliant rainbow arched across the eastern sky. Black Eagle stood waiting for her. "Yellow Fox's father will live because of you," he said. My people see now why Black Eagle chose white woman. Too tired to mask her emotions, Sarah asked the question that had been haunting her. And do you regret your choice? For the first time, Black Eagle's face softened into what might almost be called a smile. No. Wise choice. Brave heart crosses between worlds. As they walked back to their teepee together, Sarah realized something had shifted between them, a fragile bridge beginning to form across the vast divide of their different worlds. Autumn painted the prairie in russet and gold as the moon of falling leaves approached. 3 months had passed since Sarah's arrival at the Comanche camp, and much had changed. The small garden she had started near the river was thriving, with squash, beans, and corn growing in neat rows. Several women of the tribe had joined her in the experiment, curious about the white woman's growing methods. Even Singing Bird, who had been so hostile initially, now worked alongside Sarah, their communication improving as Sarah learned more Comanche words, and Singing Bird practiced her limited English. Their conversations were often punctuated by laughter as they struggled to understand each other. Plant needs more water, Sarah demonstrated one morning, showing how to create small irrigation channels. Like this? Singing Bird asked, carefully digging a trench with a pointed stick. Perfect, Sarah nodded. The squash will grow bigger with more water. Singing Bird smiled, her former resentment replaced by cautious friendship. You teach good. My children eat better this winter. The women's acceptance had come gradually, earned through Sarah's willingness to work hard and learn their ways while sharing her own knowledge. She now participated in the daily activities of the camp, grinding corn, preparing hides, gathering wild plants, with growing confidence. Black Eagle watched these developments with quiet approval. Their relationship had evolved into something Sarah couldn't quite define, not the passionate love she had once dreamed of as a young girl, but a deep respect and growing companionship. They still slept on opposite sides of the fire, but their conversations had become longer and more personal. One evening, as they sat before their teepee watching the sunset, Black Eagle presented her with a gift, a beautifully beaded dress in the Comanche style. Winter coming, he explained. Buckskin warmer than cotton. Sarah accepted the gift with genuine pleasure. It's beautiful. Did you make this? My mother and sister, he admitted. They say Black Eagle's wife should dress like Comanche woman now. The mention of wife still startled Sarah. Sometimes she almost forgot that she was technically married to this man, who remained in many ways a stranger, despite their growing understanding. Do your people accept me now? She asked. Black Eagle considered this. Most see good heart. Some still fear change. He gestured toward the garden. But all will eat from plants you grow. Actions speak louder than fear. Sarah nodded, understanding the wisdom in his words. In my settlement, people would say the same about you. You miss your family? He asked unexpectedly. Yes, she admitted, especially as Christmas approaches. Christmas, Sarah explained the holiday traditions. The gathering of family, exchange of gifts, special meals. As she spoke, she felt a pang of homesickness sharper than any she had experienced since arriving. Black Eagle listened attentively. Family important to Comanche, too. When snow melts, maybe visit your family. Show them you well. The suggestion caught Sarah by surprise. You would allow that? A shadow crossed his face. You not prisoner, Sarah. Treaty say 1 year, then choose. I keep word. Before she could respond, shouts erupted from the edge of camp. A lookout had spotted riders approaching, U.S. cavalry soldiers. Black Eagle rose instantly, his body tense. Stay here, he instructed. But Sarah shook her head. If they've come about the treaty, I should be there. They need to see I'm well. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded, and they walked together toward the camp's entrance where warriors were already gathering, weapons ready. Captain Miller led the small detachment, his face grim as he dismounted. Black Eagle, he greeted formally. Then his eyes found Sarah. Mrs. Montgomery, you're looking well. It's Mrs. Black Eagle now, Sarah corrected him quietly. What brings you here, Captain? Miller's expression grew more troubled. I'm afraid I bring difficult news. There's been a change in policy. The new Indian agent doesn't recognize the treaty we made. Black Eagle's face remained impassive, but Sarah could sense the tension radiating from him. What does this mean? She asked. The government is establishing a new reservation system. All Comanche are to report to Fort Sill within 30 days. A murmur of anger rippled through the gathered warriors. Black Eagle raised his hand for silence. This land is Comanche land. We honor treaty. We keep peace. I understand your position, Miller said, but my orders are clear. Either move peacefully to the reservation or— He left the threat unspoken. Or soldiers come. Black Eagle finished for him. Always same story. Sarah stepped forward, placing herself between them. Captain Miller, this tribe has honored every aspect of the agreement. The peace has held. Surely there must be some accommodation possible. Miller sighed. The decision comes from Washington, Mrs. Montgomery. Pardon me, Mrs. Black Eagle. I'm just the messenger. After the soldiers departed, a council fire was lit in the center of camp. Elders and warriors gathered to discuss their options, voices rising in passionate debate. Sarah sat slightly apart, knowing this was not her place to speak, yet feeling deeply invested in the outcome. Late into the night, Black Eagle found her still sitting outside their teepee, wrapped in a buffalo robe against the autumn chill. The council has decided, he said, lowering himself beside her. We will not go to reservation. Not yet. What will you do? She asked, fearing the answer. Send delegation to Fort Sill. Speak with new Indian agent. Show him our farm, our peaceful ways. He looked at her intently. You will come. Your words carry weight with white man. Of course I'll come, she agreed immediately. But what if they don't listen? Black Eagle's face was illuminated by moonlight, revealing a complexity of emotions he rarely displayed. Then we must find new path. Not war. Too many would die. But not surrender freedom either. The journey to Fort Sill took 3 days. Sarah rode proudly alongside Black Eagle, dressed in the beaded buckskin dress, her hair braided in the Comanche style. The delegation included the medicine man, 2 respected elders, and 3 warriors. At the fort, they were met with suspicion but allowed entry. The new Indian agent, Wilkinson, was a hard-faced man with cold eyes who barely acknowledged Sarah's presence. The government's position is non-negotiable, he stated after hearing their case. All Indians must be registered and settled on the reservation. These people have kept peace, Sarah argued. They're learning farming, adapting their ways. Forcing them onto the reservation will destroy everything they've built. Wilkinson's gaze sharpened. Mrs. Montgomery, you were sent as part of a treaty arrangement that has been superseded. Your association with these people has clearly compromised your judgment. My judgment is perfectly clear, Sarah retorted. I've lived among the Comanche for months. They want peace, but they deserve to maintain their dignity and way of life. The negotiations continued for 2 days without progress. On the evening of the 2nd day, an unexpected visitor arrived at their quarters. Sarah's father, John Montgomery. Pa! She cried, embracing him tearfully. How did you know I was here? Word spreads, he said, holding her at arm's length to study her. You look different, stronger. Black Eagle stood respectfully apart, watching their reunion. John Montgomery turned to him with guarded eyes. You've kept your word. My daughter appears well. Black Eagle nodded solemnly. Sarah honored among my people. Teaches farming, heals sick, brings new ways. An uncomfortable silence fell. Then John cleared his throat. I've been talking to folks. Not everyone agrees with this new reservation policy. Some of us settlers think the peace treaty was working just fine. Hope flickered in Sarah's heart. What are you saying, Pa? I'm saying there's land, good land, bordering our property that nobody's claimed yet. Land that might suit a small band of peaceful Comanche who are willing to farm alongside their neighbors. The proposal was radical, unprecedented. Over the next day, a new plan took shape. Black Eagle's band would settle on the unclaimed land near Sweetwater Creek. They would farm and maintain some of their traditional ways, while establishing peaceful relations with the neighboring settlers. John Montgomery and several other influential homesteaders would vouch for them with the territorial authorities. When the plan was presented to Agent Wilkinson, he scoffed initially, but was eventually persuaded by the combined pressure from the settlers, Captain Miller, who argued for honoring the original agreement, and Sarah's passionate advocacy. I'll allow a 6-month trial, he finally conceded. But one incident, one complaint from the settlers, and it's straight to the reservation. As they rode away from Fort Sill, Sarah found herself filled with both anxiety and hope. Black Eagle rode beside her, his face contemplative. Your father is honorable man, he said. Now I see where your strength comes from. Will your people accept this compromise? She asked. Some will come. Some will choose reservation. Some will continue to fight. He sighed deeply. World changes. We must find way to keep Comanche heart while walking new path. A week later, they returned to Sweetwater Creek with those who had chosen to follow Black Eagle. About 40 people, including women, children, and elderly. They set up their teepees on the unclaimed land, creating a small village near the Montgomery homestead. The first meeting between the Comanche and the settlers was tense, with suspicious glances exchanged on both sides. Sarah and her father stood in the middle, bridging the divide. These folks have agreed to respect our ways if we respect theirs, John Montgomery announced to the gathered settlers. They'll farm their own land, trade fairly, and help protect the territory from raiders. Gradually, the tension eased as curious children from both communities began to interact, and women exchanged tentative smiles. The promise of shared knowledge, Comanche hunting and survival skills combined with the settlers' farming techniques, offered benefits to both sides. That evening, Sarah and Black Eagle walked together along Sweetwater Creek, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. 1 year almost done, he said quietly. Soon you choose. Stay or go. Sarah stopped walking, turning to face him. The treaty that brought us together no longer exists. I'm free to choose now. Black Eagle nodded, his eyes revealing a vulnerability she had never seen before. What does your heart say? Sarah thought of the months she had spent in his camp, the people she had come to know, the bridge she had helped to build between two worlds. She thought of the man before her, not the fearsome warrior of legend, but the thoughtful leader who had chosen a difficult path of adaptation rather than futile resistance or complete surrender. My heart says there is work to be done here. Important work. She took a step closer to him. Work that perhaps only we can do together. For the first time, Black Eagle reached for her hand, his calloused fingers entwining with hers. Together, he repeated, the word a promise in itself. As they walked back toward the settlement, not quite Comanche, not quite white, but something new and hopeful, Sarah realized that sometimes the most unexpected journeys led to the most meaningful destinations. The fearless Comanche warrior and the settler's daughter had found something neither had sought nor expected. A shared purpose, and perhaps in time, a deeper love built on respect and understanding. In the distance, their two communities prepared for the evening meal, smoke rising from cooking fires into the darkening sky. Two worlds, not yet merged but no longer entirely separate, finding a way forward together.